We are told, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. But what if I don't practice Aleph?
Oh, this is an expression that the Rebbe used. If you know Aleph, teach Aleph. I don't think the Rebbe meant if you know Aleph and don't do Aleph, teach Aleph. Certainly the Rebbe meant if you know Aleph. If you know Aleph, let's use Chassidish Sprach. You don't understand Aleph. You have Yediyah, Das Alakei Avicha, as opposed to Havenes Alakei Avicha. If you know Aleph, you do Aleph. Certainly you cannot be a hypocrite. To teach somebody something that you yourself don't believe is a waste of time. Like the famous story that they tell about one of the Gdei Chassidim, that he was recruiting a tutor for his daughters. So he said to this tutor, I'm looking for someone who's a Yirei Shamayim. So he said, I'm not a Yirei Shamayim, but I really very much want that your daughters should be Yirei Shamayim. So he answered him, that's not good enough for me, because then my children are going to grow up sincerely wanting other people to be a Yirei Shamayim. This is an expression that the Rebbe used, and the Rebbe certainly didn't mean you know an Aleph and don't do it. It means you know an Aleph and you do it, but you don't know Beis, and nevertheless you should teach it to another. So the Nekudah of the answer to the question directly is the Rebbe didn't mean that you know something that you don't practice. If you know something you don't practice, it's, as the Rebbe wants to use the expression, it's kosher piece of meat, but it's in a treifa pot. This idea that if you know Aleph, teach Aleph is very much the Rebbe's approach, and has to do with our generation and our time. And there's a number of different answers or aspects to it. The first is that we're living in a Shas Cherem. That's why. The condition of Yiddishkeit and Yidden and the world in general is so dire, is so sad, and that every day we lose neshamas, and we lose them forever. Like the Rebbe said, that $1 you can always get back. A child that was lost to Jewish education you can't get back, and nor their children, nor their grandchildren. I'd save kol adeiris. So anybody who can do anything to address this terrible condition has to do it, even if they only know an Aleph. That's one aspect to it. And of course the other aspect to it, the deeper aspect to it, is that there's no greater way for you to learn the Beis than being forced to teach the Aleph to somebody else. There's no greater way to lift yourself up and to be makar of yourself and to bring yourself closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than being makar of somebody else. Like I always say the word from the first Maimer, Basi Legani, Eib du willst, as dir soll eingehen, der vayikre muss sein, der vayakri. If you want to successfully develop a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's only by bringing somebody else closer to the Eibishter. And I just want to share a fact in a conclusionary way. The Rebbe had shluchim all over the world. And he gave them different instructions. Different shluchim had different instructions. One of the most unique shluchim and one of the most unique shlichusin was Rabbi Azimov. Rabbi and Rebbe Azimov, unfortunately, they're both aleim hashalom. They didn't have what we would call a full arichas yamim. But they were the most successful shluchim of the Rebbe perhaps in the whole world. And when they went to France, the Rebbe told them that their mission is that they should make from all of their mukuravim mashpiyim. In other words, that the approach has to be that as soon as they're makar of somebody, that person should teach others. And the success that they enjoyed is unparalleled. People wonder why the Rebbe gave them specifically this instruction and not to others, and there's all kinds of answers. Maybe it had to do with them, maybe it had to do with the fact that the people that were being makarev were of a certain type. But the fact is that the design of that shlichus was they should be makarev a Yiddishkeit, and as soon as he knows Aleph, they should begin to teach Aleph. In a very, very short time, all the people that they were makarev in the late 60s became them mashpiyim. And it was the basis for this incredibly broad success, because there was such a pool of teachers. Every person that they learned a little Hasidus with was teaching to others, and the way I understand it is in the earlier stages they didn't know very much, and they became mashpiyim, and then of course over time they knew more and more and more. And the important thing is that we should reach the time of Alei Lamdu Eidishis Re'eyu Alei Lamdu Lamedu Eidishis Re'eyu Ki Kulam Yedu Eisi Ki Mola Horas Deis Havaya Kamayim Liyom Achas When Mashiach comes, we're not going to have to learn from one another because we'll all be Yedim Es Havaya. But until that time, the Rebbe talked about the tzaddik in pelts and the ksheit atz mechatchila. A person has to appreciate the incredibly great responsibility that there is to give what we know to another. the simplest person with the smallest amount of knowledge can change another person's life if he just appreciates that it's not about their greatness, it's about the greatness of the Eibishter. It's not about their knowledge, it's about the knowledge of the Torah. And by imparting it to somebody else, they're literally saving a Jew, and all the children and grandchildren are going to come from that person until Mashiach comes, till the end of time.